Welcome back to the Book Nook podcast. And if you've been thinking about picking up a copy of To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf, well, you're in luck. You can find a handy-dandy link to buy the book right there in the description. Easy peasy.
Today we're taking a deep dive, as promised, into To the Lighthouse. This is something we've been hearing a lot of buzz about from you, our awesome listeners. It seems like a lot of folks are intrigued by this modernist masterpiece.
It definitely seems to have captured everyone's imaginations. So to really unpack this one for you, we've rounded up a fantastic collection of perspectives. We've got insightful book reviews from Ardia Thavel and another really astute reader whose name we'll keep under wraps for now. And to top it off, we've also incorporated some brilliant analyses from the YouTube channels Joshua J. Clark Kelsall and, get this, Better Than Food.
It really does sound like a delicious mix. And that's kind of the whole point of this deep dive, right? Our mission is to really break down what makes this novel so compelling, so enduring. So we're going to delve into its signature stream of consciousness style, its exploration of time and memory, those beautifully complex relationships it portrays, and of course, its rightful place within the realm of literary modernism. And don't worry, we're not going to get all stuffy and academic on you. We want to keep things clear, engaging, and most importantly, enjoyable.
Absolutely. So, To the Lighthouse, for those who might not know, hit the literary scene back in 1927, making it Woolf's fifth published novel. And here's a fun fact for you. While the story itself unfolds on the breathtaking Isle of Skye in Scotland, it turns out that Woolf actually drew inspiration from her own childhood holidays in Cornwall. Those stunning lighthouses at Eilean Ban or Godrivy Island might have even played a role.
That's fascinating. It's amazing how those personal experiences can find their way into a writer's work, isn't it? But back to the Lighthouse. The novel kind of gracefully unfolds for you in three distinct parts. The main focus really is on the Ramsay family and their visits to this, well, you could call it their summer home, first in 1910 and then again a decade later in 1920. And that middle section, time passes, well, it kind of acts as this bridge connecting those 10 years. And one thing that you as a reader will immediately notice is the way the narrative kind of effortlessly shifts between the viewpoints of the different characters. It's like stepping into their minds, seeing the world through their eyes.
Exactly. Woolf was a master of this technique known as stream of consciousness. She gives you, the reader, this incredibly intimate access to the inner workings of their minds.
It's almost like eavesdropping on their thoughts, those unfiltered feelings, those fleeting impressions. And unlike, let's say, your more traditional plot-heavy novels, To the Lighthouse isn't really about a fast-paced, action-packed storyline. The real heart of the novel lies in those internal experiences of the characters, those unspoken emotions, and those incredibly nuanced relationships. It's all about those intricate, intimate connections.
It's almost like Woolf is inviting you to experience life as it's lived, moment by moment, thought by thought, rather than just rushing to the next plot point.
Exactly. It's about those everyday moments, those seemingly insignificant details that actually make up the fabric of our lives. And this really brings us to Woolf's groundbreaking writing style and how it fits so perfectly into the modernist movement. She's right up there with literary titans like, James Joyce, Marcel Proust, those innovators who really reshaped how we think about literature. And a defining characteristic of modernism, which you'll definitely see in To the Lighthouse, is that deep dive into the internal world, the landscape of human consciousness.
And stream of consciousness is such a key tool for achieving that, right? For you, the reader, the prose becomes this mirror of how our thoughts actually work. It's not always neat and linear. It jumps around, it shifts focus, it throws in these fragments, kind of like our minds do in real life. In fact, one of the reviews we looked at mentioned how Woolf actually honed this style by paying close attention to her own thought processes. She'd sit there and literally try to capture the ebb and flow of her thoughts on paper.
That's incredible. Talk about dedication to your craft, right? But, it's also what makes this style so effective. It pulls you right into the characters' heads, allowing you to experience the world through their senses, their emotions.
Now, it's worth mentioning that this style, as brilliant as it is, can feel a little different if you're new to Woolf or to modernist literature in general. It's not your typical straightforward narrative.
Right. You'll encounter these really long, winding sentences, sometimes stretching for an entire paragraph. And then, bam, you'll get hit with a short, punchy line, almost like a poetic verse. It's a very deliberate style that plays with rhythm and pace, and it can definitely take some getting used to. One reviewer even described it as reading poetry that just happens to be disguised as a novel.
I love that. It really captures the essence of it, doesn't it? And another source emphasized that To the Lighthouse is a novel that truly rewards multiple readings. With each pass, you uncover new layers of meaning, new nuances in the characters' thoughts and interactions.
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion, right? Or
Yeah.
maybe a really intricate work of art. There's always something new to discover, something to contemplate. But let's shift gears for a moment and talk about one of the most prominent themes that really jumps out from all the sources we explored.
Time.
Time is not just a setting in to the lighthouse. It's more like this ever-present force, a character in itself, constantly shaping and reshaping the lives of those within its grasp.
Absolutely. Woolf explores time in such a profound and, dare I say, innovative way. She delves into how each character experiences time subjectively, through their own memories, their fleeting thoughts, those sensory impressions. It's less about a linear, chronological sequence of events and more about the way time is perceived and processed within each individual's consciousness.
Exactly. You see the characters grappling with the passage of time, reflecting on past events and struggling to make sense of it all. And external events like, say, the gradual decay of that beautiful Ramsay house or the changing seasons, well, they serve as these constant reminders of time's relentless march.
And then there's that poignant observation from one of the reviewers. Time, within the world of the novel, becomes this fluid, immeasurable thing. It expands and contracts within our own minds. It's almost like saying that our experience of time is more about perception than any objective measurement.
Now, this concept of time being subjective is so beautifully intertwined with Woolf's masterful exploration of human relationships. The way those shifting narrative perspectives work, it's like she's inviting you to see each relationship from multiple angles, to understand the nuances and complexities from each person's point of view.
It's like a kaleidoscope of perspectives, right? And one of the things Woolf highlights so beautifully is the messiness of human relationships. They're not always neat and tidy. They're filled with contradictions, with unspoken emotions, with those little misunderstandings that can sometimes snowball into larger conflicts.
And she really doesn't shy away from the ambiguities either. Characters often experience these conflicting emotions, and so much is left unsaid between them. It's like life, isn't it? We don't always say exactly what we mean, and those silences can speak volumes.
And sometimes the things we don't say are just as important, if not more so, than the words we do utter. That unspoken tension, that underlying current of emotion, it's all there, simmering beneath the surface. And you know what? One scene that really captures this beautifully is that unforgettable dinner party scene in the first part of the novel.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the longest sections in the book, and Woolf uses it to really showcase the disparity between, outward appearances and those inner turmoil that each guest is experiencing. On the surface, everyone seems to be enjoying themselves, engaging in polite conversation, but beneath that facade, there are all these unspoken tensions, these internal dramas playing out. As one of the analyses pointed out, you could have someone who appears to be completely at ease, while internally they might be feeling resentment or anxiety, or maybe they're just completely preoccupied with something else entirely.
It's like that saying, smiling on the outside, screaming on the inside. But in a much more nuanced literary way, of course, it's all about those subtle hints, those unspoken thoughts that Woolf masterfully reveals to you.
And remember that moment when Mrs. Ramsay is observing that bowl of fruit? She gets so annoyed when someone takes a piece, even though she doesn't outwardly express it. It's like this tiny, seemingly insignificant detail, but it speaks volumes about her character, her need for control, her internal anxieties. It's one of those details that you might miss on a first read, but once you catch it, it adds this whole other layer of understanding.
Oh, definitely. And then there's that quiet scene between Mr. and Mrs. Ramsay after the dinner party. They're just sitting there, seemingly content, reading in silence, but Woolf takes you inside their heads, and you suddenly see these unspoken thoughts and emotions swirling around them. It's a beautiful example of how much can be happening beneath the surface of what might seem like an ordinary, even mundane interaction.
Exactly. And one of the sources emphasized that the main drama in To the Lighthouse really unfolds internally, within the minds and hearts of the characters.
And this brings us to the heart of the novel, those richly developed characters who carry so much weight, so much complexity. Let's start with Mrs. Ramsay, shall we?
Let's. She's definitely a central figure, especially in that first part. She embodies so much of what was expected of women in that era. The devoted wife, the nurturing mother. She's often seen as this source of beauty, grace, and stability, finding meaning and fulfillment in her role as the heart of the family.
She really embodies that archetype of the angel of the house, doesn't she? Self-sacrificing, devoted to her family's well-being. And she does it all with this grace, this effortless charm that makes her so beloved by those around her. But as the novel unfolds, you begin to see that Mrs. Ramsay is so much more than just a wife and mother.
Exactly. And Woolf gives you these glimpses into her rich inner life, her intellectual curiosity, her yearning for something beyond the confines of domesticity. And yet those around her, especially her husband, often underestimate her intelligence, taking her for granted.
And her death in part two, well, that's such a pivotal moment, both literally and symbolically. Many readers interpret it as representing the decline of that traditional female role, the angel of the house, in a world that was rapidly changing.
And then we have Mr. Ramsay the philosopher. Oh boy, he's a complex one. He comes across as this imposing figure, someone who's deeply concerned with his intellectual legacy, desperately afraid of fading into obscurity.
Oh, absolutely. He craves recognition, validation for his work. And underneath that seemingly confident exterior, you see this deep-seated insecurity.
He's constantly seeking reassurance, especially from Mrs. Ramsay, who he often turns to for comfort and praise. It's almost as if he needs her to affirm his worth, to bolster his ego.
And this need for praise becomes a really defining aspect of his character, something that drives his interactions and fuels his internal conflicts. It's interesting because, outwardly he's this successful philosopher, but internally he struggles with self-doubt, with this fear of not being remembered.
Now, we can't forget their son, James. He's another incredibly important character, especially in those first and third parts of the novel. He starts off as this eager young boy, so excited about the prospect of visiting the lighthouse.
Right, he has this almost childlike sense of wonder and adventure, but then his hopes are dashed and you see this resentment building towards his father, who he blames for preventing the trip. And that frustrated desire, well, it stays with him for years, shaping his perception of his father and influencing their complex relationship.
It's like those childhood experiences, even those that might seem insignificant to an adult, can have such a lasting impact on us.
Yeah.
They shape our perceptions, our relationships, how we see the world.
Absolutely. Those formative years are so crucial. And then there's Lily Briscoe, the aspiring painter. Oh, she's a fascinating character. She's someone who seems to actively reject those traditional roles that society at that time was trying to impose on women.
She's a true independent spirit, finding meaning and purpose in her art. And her journey really reflects the struggles that women artists faced in a patriarchal society.
She encounters those dismissive attitudes, those subtle and not so subtle ways in which women's creativity was often undermined. And there's that one particularly cutting comment from Charles Tansley, who arrogantly declares, "Women can't paint, women can't write."
Ouch. I mean, talk about a blow to the ego. But you know what? That comment speaks volumes about the societal barriers that women like Lily were up against.
Exactly. It wasn't just about talent or skill. It was about societal expectations, about the roles that women were supposed to fulfill. And Lily, well, she chooses to defy those expectations. She perseveres, she hones her craft, and by the novel's conclusion, she embraces her artistic vision and affirms the value of her work, regardless of what others might say.
She's a symbol of that rising tide of modern women who are challenging the status quo, demanding to be seen and heard on their own terms. She's a pioneer, paving the way for future generations of women artists to express themselves freely.
And even Charles Tansley, who you might initially perceive as this rather unlikable character, even he's given a bit more depth, a bit more complexity as the story unfolds.
Right. He's not just this one-dimensional villain. Woolf peels back the layers, revealing the insecurities that might be driving his behavior. One of the sources pointed out that his working-class background, in contrast to the more privileged circles he now finds himself in, might be contributing to his anxieties and his need to assert himself.
And it's interesting because Lily at one point acknowledges his insecurity, offering a more nuanced perspective on his behavior. It's like she sees through his facade and recognizes the vulnerability beneath.
Which is a really powerful reminder, right? That even the most seemingly unpleasant characters are driven by their own experiences, their own fears and insecurities. They're not just cardboard cutouts, they're fully realized human beings.
Exactly, and it really speaks to Woolf's skill as a writer. She creates these multifaceted characters, each with their own internal world, their own unique perspective. Even Mrs. Ramsay, who you might initially perceive as purely maternal, well, she has this hidden depth, this intellectual curiosity that yearns to be explored. And Mr. Ramsay, the seemingly strong patriarch, well, he's grappling with his own vulnerabilities, his fear of being forgotten.
It's like Woolf is reminding you that there's always more to people than meets the eye. And true understanding requires empathy, the willingness to see the world through their lens.
Beautifully said. And now let's shift gears and talk about part 2 of the novel, Time Passes. This section, as many of the sources we looked at pointed out, takes on a very distinct tone and style, almost like a departure from the rest of the novel.
It's almost like Woolf hits the pause button on those intimate character interactions and zooms out to give you a wider, more panoramic view of time passing. And it's interesting because the focus shifts to the Ramsay house itself, which becomes this symbol of decay and the inevitable passage of time.
Right. The house, once so vibrant and full of life, is now this empty shell, gradually succumbing to the elements. And it's almost like a metaphor for the family itself, fractured and scattered by loss and the upheavals of war.
And the way those pivotal events are presented, it's so stark, so different from the rest of the novel. Those major deaths, Mrs. Ramsay, Andrew, Prue, they're often conveyed in these brief, almost parenthetical statements. It's like Woolf is highlighting the randomness of life, the way those momentous events can occur so suddenly, so unexpectedly.
Exactly. And it's almost jarring, isn't it? Because you're so used to being immersed in those internal worlds of the characters, and then suddenly, boom, these major events happen almost off-screen. It really underscores the indifference of time to our individual human tragedies. Life and death go on, regardless of our personal dramas.
It's like a subtle but powerful reminder of the fragility of life, the fleeting nature of our existence.
Now, To the Lighthouse also grapples with some really profound themes related to life, death, and the search for meaning. And it seems that each character approaches these questions in their own unique way.
Exactly. Mrs. Ramsay finds meaning in those domestic roles and creating a sense of home and family. Lily seeks solace and purpose in her art and expressing herself through her paintings. And Mr. Ramsay, well, he's driven by this need to leave his mark on the world, to be remembered for his intellectual contributions. It's like Woolf is suggesting that there's no one right answer, no universal truth when it comes to finding meaning. It's a personal quest, a journey that each individual must undertake for themselves.
Absolutely. And it's a journey that's often messy, filled with doubts and uncertainties. And, one of the things that resonated with me from the sources we explored was that the novel also acknowledges all those things that are often left unsaid and undone in life. Those missed opportunities, those unspoken words, those yearnings that remain unfulfilled.
It's like a reflection of our own human experience, isn't it? We all carry those regrets, those what-ifs that linger in the back of our minds. And To the Lighthouse doesn't shy away from that. It embraces the complexities, the imperfections of life.
And then there's the recurring theme of mortality, the fear of being forgotten. This is especially evident in Mr. Ramsay's character, his constant anxiety about his legacy.
Remember that poignant moment when he compares the potential permanence of a simple rock to the fleeting nature of human fame. It's a heartbreaking realization, the recognition of our own impermanence.
It's a reminder that we're all just passing through, leaving our mark, however small, on the world. And To the Lighthouse doesn't sugarcoat it. It confronts the reality of death and the inherent loneliness of our existence.
But you know what? In the midst of all that, there's also this sense of beauty, this appreciation for the small moments, those fleeting experiences that make up a life. It's like Woolf is saying, yes, life is fleeting, but it's also filled with these precious moments of connection, of beauty, of love.
It's about finding the extraordinary within the ordinary, recognizing the depth and complexity within those seemingly simple interactions.
And if you're enjoying this deep dive into the rich tapestry of To the Lighthouse, be sure to subscribe to the Book Nook podcast and leave a review. Your feedback really means a lot to us.
It helps us keep bringing you these insightful literary discussions. So to wrap things up, what kind of overall impression do you think To the Lighthouse leaves on readers?
Well, from the sources we looked at, it seems to be widely regarded as a fantastic introduction to modernist literature. It's complex, yes, but also considered more accessible than some other works from that period. And it really encourages readers to kind of surrender to the flow of the language, to get lost in those intricate inner worlds of the characters, rather than getting hung up on a traditional plot.
And Woolf's experimental style, which was quite groundbreaking at the time, really does offer this incredible exploration of human consciousness.
And the themes she explores, time, memory, relationships, the changing roles of women, well, they continue to resonate deeply with readers even today.
To the Lighthouse truly is a timeless masterpiece, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's a novel that stays with you long after you've finished reading it, leaving you with these lingering thoughts and reflections about life, loss, and the human condition.
It's a novel that reminds us of the power of language, the beauty of introspection, and the enduring search for meaning.
The novel truly leaves us with so much to contemplate. The way we experience time, the complexities of our inner lives, the ever-shifting dynamics of our relationships.
Here's a final thought for you, our listeners, to ponder. Consider how your own memories, your internal monologues, shape your understanding of the present moment. How might delving deeper into those internal landscapes, much like Woolf does in To the Lighthouse, enrich your appreciation of life, of the world around you?
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Virginia Woolf's To the Lighthouse. We hope you enjoyed it. And don't forget, there's a link in the description to get your own copy of the book.
And be sure to subscribe and leave a review if you enjoyed this episode. It really helps us keep these literary discussions going.
Thank you so much for listening to the Book Nook podcast. And be sure to check the link in the description to get your copy of the book.